Good morning, accounting class. This morning I am going to fill out a worksheet and so that you can see how it's done. Here's the sample worksheet, and notice here I've already copied the trial balance. Sometimes in problems you have to copy this data from the data in the book, but it's simply finding the cash, copying it to this page. So this column is really easy if you've got a trial balance. Now if you're filling out a trial balance from your general ledger, then you'll need to copy this data from your general ledger. But for now, we've got a trial balance and we're ready to go. So I also have, as I'll have in many problems like this, some adjustments. These are adjustments that I need to make. I'm going to put these adjustments into this adjustment column here, and I'll show you how to do that right now. Let me adjust my screen for just a second here. There, okay, so and I don't need to pay attention to any other columns at this point. I'm just going to put the adjustments into the adjustment column. So the first adjustment here is, that's annoying, let me move these up a little bit. The first adjustment here is insurance expired. This means, notice, now you can notice here first I've got insurance expired here as an adjustment, and I've got prepaid insurance here. And what this insurance expired means is that at the beginning of the month, or at the beginning of the beginning of a period, I bought a bunch of prepaid insurance. I've got lots of insurance. I purchased $11,000 worth of insurance. I'm not going to have to pay insurance for probably another year here almost. But every month I need to acknowledge that, hey, some of my expense for this month was paid in the previous period. So I've got to log that in the adjustments column. So the first thing I notice here, I've got prepaid insurance, but I don't have prepaid expense. And the thing that you'll need to remember about the adjustments column is that it's double entry. For every debit, I'm going to also have to have a credit in this column. So I'm going to come down here. This is insurance expense. Now notice here, I'm actually adding some accounts down below. I'm going to add a few accounts as I do this problem here. Insurance expense is one, and then when I come over and I add up the adjustments column and all the other columns down the row, I'm going to add all of them. I'm going to add everything, including everything else, including the stuff down here. So insurance expired is $1,000, and insurance expense, this is a debit account. It grows on the debit side, and so I'm going to put $1,000 here. And then my prepaid insurance, yeah, I had $11,000 worth of it, but now this is going to go down. And so, and notice this prepaid insurance is also an asset account. So to decrease it, I'm going to credit it. So I've got a debit, and then I've got a credit. And that's all I need to do right now. I'm just making adjustments. And that completes this first adjustment here. I'm just going to put an X over here to show you that's done. That's the first one, it's done. The next thing I need to do is I need to adjust for depreciation on equipment. Oh, and before we do that, I'd just like to mention again, this is double entries. So for each of these, I'm going to make two entries, one on the debit side and one on the credit side in the adjustment column. I'm going to do both of those things. So now I've got depreciation on equipment, $400. In an earlier class we talked about how to calculate that. I don't need to calculate that here because it's given to me in the problem. I know that I've got $400 worth of depreciation on equipment. So now I need to acknowledge that. And so I look over here and I've got accumulated depreciation on equipment, $400, and I don't have anything else. This is a monthly expense. The two accounts that I need to hit here are accumulated depreciation and depreciation expense. And I don't have depreciation expense in any of these accounts here, so I'm going to put it down here. There's my account. So now this is another expense account, which means it grows or it increases on the debit side. I have $400 worth of expense. Now I don't necessarily like that, but that's just how it is. I have an expense here. And on the credit side, it's double entry again, so I'm going to, every time I put something on the debit side, I need to put something equal on the credit side. So here we go, $400 worth of accumulated depreciation. And as we talked about earlier, accumulated depreciation is a credit, or is rather a contra asset. It grows on the credit side. This is how much total that our equipment, which we bought at $5,000, has gone down. And remember also that this amount here, equipment, depreciation does not change my equipment amount. Equipment is going to stay at $5,000. That's the amount that it's going to stay at. So now I'm done with depreciation. I've adjusted for it. I put something on the debit side here, and I put something on the credit side here. So now I am done with that one. And the next thing I need to do is supplies on hand. This is the only account. This is the only adjustment that, based on this problem data, I'm going to have to do any calculation for. The other ones are just given. They've told me what the depreciation is. I don't have to figure it. It's just right there in the problem. And also the same thing with wages paid but not owed. It's right there in the problem. I know that that's the amount I have. So supplies is the only thing that I'm going to have to do some calculation for. So, and I look over here and I've got supplies. I've got I've got $450 worth of supplies. So here it is, supplies, $450. Let me actually put another tab there. Supplies, $450. And then I've got supplies on hand, $200. This means that the supplies on hand, this is a key phrase here, watch for this. Supplies on hand, that means that at the end of the month, I went back into the back and I did an inventory. I said, how many supplies do I have? And I counted $200 worth of supplies. This supplies on hand is not how much expense I have. This is not my expense. This is how much is left over. And in order to find out what my expense is, I need to do a little bit of subtraction here. My supplies expense is $250. That's how much is left over. Or that's how much, rather, is how much my expense is. Supplies on hand. This is what's left over. Supplies expense is how much I used during the month. And over here on my worksheet, I don't have a supplies expense column, or rather row. I don't have a supplies expense row, so I'm going to add one down here at the bottom. Supplies expense. There it is. And it's a debit account just like all the others. And so I'm going to put it here. And again, this adjustments column, it's double entry. So every time I have a debit, I need to put an equal value on the credit side. So here I go. Here's my supplies row, and I'm going to put a credit right here. And this makes sense as well. I had $450 worth of supplies at the beginning of the month, and then I'm going to credit that account, which means it's going to decrease because it's an asset, and it increases on the debit side and decreases on the credit side. So there's my supplies on hand. I'm done with that one. Next, I have wages owed but not paid. $220. Over here, I've got some wage expense for the month. I had $840, which I paid to my employees. And this wages owed but not paid, we talked about this in an earlier class period, where this is the amount that I had a payday maybe on a Monday, and then I had maybe 5 more days where my employees worked, but I didn't pay them for it. And this is, I'm going to have to increase my wages expense because that's gone up, but I'm also going to have to acknowledge my debt to my employees for the time that they have worked this month, because they want me to pay me, or they want me to pay them. So here I am. And this is going to be, I've got accounts payable, but that's different. That is for business debts. Or if I bought something, I'd put it in accounts payable, but I want to keep track of my salaries payable in a different account. So here I am putting in my account. This is going to be wages payable. This is acknowledging that now I have a debt. And so my wages expense is going to go up by $220. There it is. And now my wages payable is going to be a credit for $220. And so I'm done. I've logged all my adjustments column, and now all I need to do that's left, I need to add up this column. I need to get a total. Now this is a spreadsheet program, and I could just put a formula down in here, but I just want to show you because some of my students work on paper. And here we go. Here I brought up my little calculator. I'm just going to add this up. On the debit side, 220 plus 1,000 plus 400 plus 250 is $870. Let me put that down here. First, let me put a thick line at the bottom. Is my thick line, I think. Nope, that's not my thick line. Borders. Okay, so this program isn't doing that as well as I'd like. I've got it set up over here. There's a thick line, and then here's a double line underneath that. So here is $870 on that side, and then on the other side, and since I put the same numbers on both sides, this is really kind of easy. And frankly, adding it up is kind of redundant because I can just look and say, okay, 220, 1,400, 250, 1,400, 250, 220. But if I had a lot of adjustments, if I had 8 or 10, I might still add it just to make sure. But for the purposes of this exercise, I'm going to add them up on the other side as well. I've got 1,000, oops, no, not there, here. $1,000 plus $400 plus $250 plus $220 is $1,870. There, it's the same amount, $1,870. And as far as the formatting goes, I'd make it look just like it would look over here. I've got a thick line and a double line. And now my adjustments column is completely done. I've logged all my adjustments over here, and I've totaled them down at the bottom. And so that's what I need to do. I'm going to try to see if I can figure this out. Nope, I don't see it there. So yeah, we're done. Let me close off the video, and in the next video I will show you how to do the adjusted trial balance column.